Hello, everybody. My name is Miguel Gonzalez, and this is going to be my critical assignment final. So my focus for my critical assignment is going to be primarily on community policing, right? And the focus is seeing how law enforcement officials have strengthened their community bonds with all races, not just minority groups. I will bring some emphasis on minority groups that we did speak about during the classroom, but I didn't just want to focus on one group because I felt there are plenty of groups that are being helped, and unfortunately, the media isn't really displaying that kind of assistance that's being done. So in my presentation, I'm going to be focusing the general community outreach that law enforcement has done, also how they've helped homeless, mental health, children, and also foreign individuals, which is something new. So probably one of the most popular events that law enforcement has created to create this bond with the community is the famous National Night Out. And what's interesting is this event actually has its origins back from the 80s, but this started more on the East Coast. And I saw a rise of this probably in 2020 after there was a lot of social, unrest. We saw, it shift towards the West Coast, and a lot of departments, especially here in California, did implement this National Night Out, and it's an awesome event. My department has held many of them since 2020, and it's really just a partnership between, the neighborhood and police departments to create this camaraderie between them and kind of interact with law enforcement officials. There's cookouts, there's food, there's festivals, parades, block parties. And like I said, we've hosted a couple ones in public parks all over our city, and I've also seen neighboring cities like the city of Rialto. They do a really, really nice one in one of their parks. It's pretty much like a whole carnival going on. They have tons of games, and it's really open for all races. There's no one race being targeted, like saying, "Oh, this is primarily dedicated for Hispanics or African Americans." It's really just a general safe place for everybody to congregate. Get to know their law enforcement officials as well as their administration, which is really nice to see, the chiefs and captains, lieutenants out there, being accessible and approachable to the public, because these kids and all these minority groups, they see them now as an individual, not as a police officer, right? Or as a chief or as a lieutenant. They see them as a human being, which is great, for, these tough times. These kids are showing, that all law enforcement officers are bad. And when they see these events, they see that that's a complete opposite, that they are human beings just like everyone else. So National Night Out, like I said, it's every year, first Tuesday in August primarily. And this has also evolved into other events within police departments. My department also does Oktoberfest, which is like an open house event, where kids from all over the neighborhood, can come actually to the police department, where there's games and different activities, free food, and prizes, and that has been a success over the years. The next group of individuals that I've seen how law enforcement has built their bridge between them and the police department is the homeless outreach programs. And one of the most popular and most successful groups that I've encountered is SWAG, also known for Social Work Action Group. And I first learned about this because the Rialto Police Department actually implemented that program for their city. And right away, the stats, don't lie. From their website, I was able to gather this information where they were able to identify 156 homeless in the individuals, over 1,000, participated in engagements with homeless individuals. 45 transitioned from the streets to permanent housing, and the city was also able to remove 49 tons of debris from properties throughout the city. And this is just from June 1st to December 31st, 2020. So roughly 6 months. And I live right next to Rialto, and my grandmother lives in Rialto. So I was able to see firsthand how this actually really helped the city grow, and just have a general better appearance. So these are organizations that are specifically targeting homeless individuals to not just be a reactive program and reacting to the homeless being in different public areas or private areas. They're trying to find the root of the problem and actually get them housing and actually get them, jobs and remove them from, that state of homelessness. My department also implemented a program. It wasn't collaborated with an outside program, it was internal. It's called the Quality of Life Team. And we focus a lot on the felony arrest, the misdemeanor arrest, as you can see on the stats. And this is from April to June. So the program just launched. It was successful back in 2017. Unfortunately, because of budget cuts, it got removed, but then it's now up and running. So just from April, June, we were able to remove 30 shopping carts, and there's been tows also, like for example, 27 tows. We've also deployed resources because we have to remember that a lot of these homeless individuals live in their cars, so they give a bad aspect, and the whole goal is to help these individuals out, not just arrest them. So the next category of individuals that law enforcement is assisting is mental health, right? And unfortunately, mental health has been on the rise over the last couple of years, and this is not a criminal issue. This is more of a social service issue. But unfortunately, since police officers are the first responders, they get there first and assess the threat. And sadly, a lot of this has turned into either use of force or deadly use of force. So, in order to mitigate that, my department at least has partnered up with COAST, which stands for Community Outreach and Support Team. So, what this is, it's a firefighter from the San Bernardino County Fire Department, an officer from our department, and two social workers from San Bernardino County, and they focus on persistent mental illness, because there's tons of these calls everywhere. Individuals having a mental breakdown, or if it's narcotics related, and they're going through this mental trauma, and all they need is really just some sort of assistance, guidance, and somebody to hear them out. Fortunately, because patrol's so busy, they can't attend to this. So this is when this team goes out there, and they actually have an emotional support dog, which is pretty cool. And it helps, these individuals who are going through some sort of trauma in their life relax and kind of hear somebody out, go to a facility that in our city is called the Windsor Center, which they're able to kind of relax, they're able to get the medical attention they need, and kind of make progress to be able to get out of that mental health issue that they're going through. So this has been pretty successful. There's not a lot of information out there because it's fairly new, but I think it's generally safer to have this program versus to have officers respond and then be liable for an attack on somebody who's having a mental breakdown. So overall, we've had really good success with this team. The next group that law enforcement is actively helping, and this is individuals of all races, it's our kids, right? Sometimes I think individuals, focus solely on the adults, on the minorities, mistreatment. However, nobody really focuses on the children of these minorities, and this is where PAL comes in. PAL is a great program. It's called the Police Activity League, and it's an outreach program, run by police departments. There's actually one that's being ran right now in my department, and the whole concept of this is to create a positive relationship between officers and young kids, right? Through different recreational programs, educational programs, and even athletic activities. So, they sign up, and usually it's a week or two, and they get to speak to different types of leaders from our department, different types of officers. They get to play, they get to interact, they get to do a lot of, cool things so they can build a, great communication and a great bond between law enforcement and themselves, because a lot of them are coming from troubled neighborhoods, so they have a certain aspect towards law enforcement. So whenever you create these programs, this deteriorates them from wanting to join a gang, from wanting to be out there doing drugs or doing any illegal activity. They have now a safe space where they're accepted, and they can have like these constructive activities, so they can feel good about themselves, that they were actually part of something bigger than themselves, which unfortunately is the reason why a lot of them join a gang. Is because they don't get that attention at home, so they're looking for that older brother feeling, and this is what this program is doing. And finally, this group, I thought it was pretty interesting to include it in this project, and I named it For an Adaptability, because back in 2010, officers from the Los Angeles Police Department were involved in an officer-involved shooting with a indigenous man, because as you know, Los Angeles is full of cultural diversity. So unfortunately, this individual didn't speak common language like Spanish or English. He actually spoke an indigenous language that no officer had really come across. So 9 years after this incident, an officer by the name of Lucia McKenzie was pivotal in launching this program with indigenous language identification cards. So there's actually a name for this, which is the NA19166CR, and it actually has the names of the common in dialects or languages that's found in LA, and how they can speak basic words, as well as a emergency number for language assistance, which is provided there. So I thought this was pretty cool how the department was adapting to these changes, something that is considered also a minority. And these are all my references. Thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed it.